Welcome back to my channel, Enlightenment in the Darkness, and welcome to how to build and cast an Osteomancy set, or known as bone casting, to predict the future. I am honored to share my own personal bone casting set with you here today, and how I went about building my own set. I am Four Winds. I am a shaman, Reiki master, ordained minister, as well as a hedge witch. I am honored to share some of my knowledge with you here today. Osteomancy, or bone divination, is an ancient form of predicting the future by tossing a set of animal bones onto the ground and interpreting their positions and orientations. Though it takes time to master, anyone can practice osteomancy with the right materials and mindset. In this video, I will explain how to build your own powerful set of bones to use for casting, and how to interpret bone spread to find the answers to your most burning questions. Now you are asking yourself, where do I get the bones? That is so gross. You can actually purchase bones online, including Amazon. But my set I will share with you today, I have collected throughout the years. Most of the bones in my collection have been found on nature walks in my woods. Building a bone set. Gather animal bones you find in nature, or look for ethically sourced sets. The ideal bones for osteomancy come from animals who died of natural causes. Keep your eyes on the ground on your next hike for bones and skeletons that speak to you. For your safety, clean and disinfect bones that you find by scrubbing them with mild soap and soaking them in diluted hydrogen peroxide. If you're uncomfortable collecting bones yourself, purchase a curated set from a divination retailer. Ask curio or collectors' shops, universities, and museums about ethical bones for sale. Another great place to go is Etsy. Incorporate other natural objects into your bone set. Bone sets for divination don't have to include just bones. If you have or find other natural objects that you feel a connection to, feel free to add them to your collection. Use items like seashells, bird feathers, tree bark, or carved wooden figures, crystals and rocks, driftwood, or even teeth. This is my own personal set I created, along with the key containing the meaning to each and every bone. How did I get the meanings? This is the real time-consuming part. I meditated and asked each bone or item what is its meaning going to be. I would get an answer through symbols, visualization, or simply by using psychometry, reading the energy that I felt come off each and every bone. I personally enjoyed collecting my bones here in the Maine woods, but please be careful during hunting season. I have a real connection to these bones, and will be connecting a link to an Enlightenment live class where I predict and read the future for fellow YouTubers here. If you're squeamish about bones in general, you don't have to use them. They're preferred because they're naturally imbued with spirits. But if you feel a spiritual connection to non-bone objects, use them instead. Add other household or found items that have a special meaning to you. Marbles, buttons, old keys, game pieces, family heirlooms. Any object that you feel drawn or connected to will work in your bone set. When you first start collecting, your set might have more objects in it than bones. That's okay, since it takes a while to collect a strong set of bones. As long as you feel a relationship with your objects, you can begin throwing bones successfully. Try to have at least 4 to 7 bones and objects in your set before using your collection for the first time. This makes it easier to draw fuller, more meaningful interpretations. Next step is to spiritually cleanse your bones before using them for the first time. Cleansing your set rids them of negative spiritual energy and prepares them to bond and work with you. Use many of the same methods you'd use to cleanse crystals on your bones and other objects. Just make sure not to expose them to water or too much direct sunlight, since these can damage them. Popular cleansing methods include smudging a sage stick and wafting your bones through the smoke, leaving your bones out to absorb moonlight overnight or sunlight for short periods, burying your bones in a tub of sea salt or Himalayan salt overnight, exposing your bones to a sound bath with singing bowls or high-frequency music. Easiest way is to use sage smoke to cleanse and consecrate your bones with good intent. I usually say, I cleanse and consecrate these bones in love and light. I have a special box I made for them. I blew the smoke into the box and closed the lid and let them set for about half hour. Assign a personal meaning to each bone and object in your set. There are no rules about what each piece means, just as there are no rules about what pieces to include. It all depends on what feels right to you. Hold each piece and meditate with it to see what emotions, memories, or stories it shows you. Jot down all of your associations with the piece in a notebook, spell book, or grimoire to pinpoint what the piece means to you. The meanings of your pieces may change over time as your collection and experience grows. Some osteomancers assign the largest bone or object to represent themselves, as the skull in my collection represents self. Of course, I do not throw this bone, while some designate a specific piece as the one that points to the answer. For example, a set might have pieces with meanings like the self, health, wealth, family, love, yes, no, truth, or disaster. If the answer to your question involves other people, include separate pieces or a double-sided piece, assigned male and female for clarification. Or if you don't prefer gendered terms, use another polarity like lunar and solar. The tooth in front of my skull has an E on it. For enlightenment, there is a light and dark side, depending on which side it lands. Tells me the client needs more shadow work and needs to release emotional garbage. The key represents doors opening. Opportunity will be knocking soon. Your next step is to store your set in a special, dedicated bag or box. Cleanse your bag or box with sage, sunlight, or salt before putting any bones in it, so it's ready to receive highly spiritual objects. Keep only your bone set in it. Intermingling with other objects might make the bag less protective. Store the bag in a meaningful, spiritual place in your home, like on an altar, near a crystal collection, or simply in a cabinet or on a shelf dedicated just to your bones. Also, try keeping your collection near you or in your purse, backpack, or travel bag. That way, your energy and the collection's energy are mingling frequently, and you learn to read one another and truly spiritually bond. Casting the bones. Gather your entire collection in your hands or in a basket or bag. Include every piece in each casting, even if you think its meaning won't have any bearing on the question, since missing items can skew the results. Using your hands is preferable if your set is small enough to hold, but a bag or container dedicated to casting your collection will work too. As I said, I do not throw the skull. In my set, the skull represents man, meaning self. I pick up all the pieces, except for this piece. I hold my bones in my hands with intention to a question I wish answered. Then I gently drop the pieces on top of the skull and let them fall to the mat. Another good point is to have a casting mat. Traditionally for shamans, they use animal fur. I do have a casting mat that is raccoon. Another good pointer here is I used clear nail polish on my bones to prevent them from splintering over years of use. While holding the bones near your heart space, ask your question out loud while you gently shake your collection. State your question clearly. It might be a simple yes, no question. Will I ever find love? Or something more open-ended. What will my career be? Continue meditating on your question and jostling the bones until you sense that it's time to cast them. If you're doing a reading for another person, have them ask the question. It will draw their energy into the reading and produce a more meaningful answer. Toss your bones very gently onto a designated osteomancy surface. Choose a soft surface, like a cushion or even a yoga mat, so the fragile bones don't break. Use both hands to release the bones and try to toss them from a medium height. Too high, and they'll bounce too far apart from each other to read. Too low, and they'll pile on top of each other in a confusing clump. Some osteomancers throw their bones on a special cloth with markings on it to aid with interpretation. Whether you use one or not is entirely up to you and your practice. The markings are different for every practitioner too. Some cloths are cut from a pre-made pattern that's meaningful to the owner, while others involve hand-drawn quadrants, circles, or runes. Next, you want to observe how each piece lands and note the relationships between them. Take time to study each piece before drawing a conclusion. Note things like which pieces are overlapping or touching, which ones are pointing at each other or at a mark on your casting surface, which pieces landed outside of the cloth, and which pieces are far away from each other. I have some one-sided pieces of bones that are inscribed with runes and their meanings. I do not read these if they fall face down. For instance, I would read these pieces as enlightenment is opening up, and the key represent opening up spiritual doors, so that validates even more. Pieces near each other are more likely to be related or intertwined somehow, while pieces that are far apart will have less to do with each other. Pieces outside of the cloth may have less to do with the answer to your question than pieces within or that are closer to the center. The further the items fall from the center skull, the longer it takes to manifest things to you. This far out represents 6 months from now. These are my interpretations of my bones I bonded with. Create your own set of rules for interpreting the bones' positions. Osteomancy doesn't come with objective instructions or a manual. The rules that govern your interpretation of the cast depend on what resonates with your practice. When you first start out, analyze the proximity of the bones to each other. As you gain experience, your rules will become more nuanced and personal. For example, if you asked, "When will I get married?" and your bones for love and man, woman land very near each other, that could mean marriage is coming sooner than later. Analyzing the shapes the scattered bones create on the ground, splitting your cloth or surface into quadrants or concentric circles, with each area having a different meaning or energy, assigning an answer bone that always points to the piece most relevant to your question, designating the center of your cloth or surface as crucial to your answer, while the edges are less important. Let your mind go blank and release any preconceived answers. Try not to overthink your analysis. Clear your mind, be still, wait, and listen to the bones. What do you notice? Is there a story entering your head that lines up with the bone's placement? Do you have a gut feeling or a persistent thought that seems important? Acknowledge all of these things and trust what your intuition is telling you. Practice and refine your bone throwing over time. Osteomancy is an art and a skill that takes time to master. When you first start out, your predictions might not come to pass as you thought. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Think of it as a nudge toward finding your perfect practice. Keep comparing your predictions to your outcomes to hone your skills and reassign your bones' meanings if needed. With practice and patience, you can become a great osteomancer. Track your rules and casting results in a notebook or grimoire. Continue adding notes as you practice to build your knowledge and expertise over time. You may not be able to tell if your prediction or answer is correct for a long time. In those cases, focus on what you feel. An answer that resonates with you is more likely to be correct than one you're forcing yourself to believe. Remember, start off with other objects other than bones till you feel comfortable. Biggest thing, relax, breathe deeply, clear your mind. There is no right or wrong here. Trust your intuition. There is no scientific evidence that osteomancy can accurately predict the future. More often, divination serves as a tool to help someone analyze their current situation and look inward to find solutions to their problems. Osteomancy is not a closed practice, but it is deeply rooted in various cultures, including Native American and African tribes. What are your thoughts about the art of bone casting? Please comment down below. Thank you for joining me here today on my channel Enlightenment in the Darkness. Please like and subscribe so I may continue to bring more fascinating videos. Many blessings to the rest of your day.